So President Trump is threatening that he'll go guns a-blazing, as he put it on social media, to tackle Islamist terrorists allegedly committing atrocities against Christians in the north of Nigeria. Mr. Trump said he'd asked the Defense Department to prepare for possible military action in Nigeria if the Nigerian government allows these atrocities to continue. That's been described as a dangerous far-right narrative, the notion of a Christian genocide going on in Nigeria, one that's been simmering for a long time and is now being amplified by President Trump. Both international and local experts on conflict in West Africa say that based on data, claims of a Christian genocide in Nigeria are false, simplistic and divisive, and are only going to further increase instability in the country. They say that armed groups have been targeting both Christians and Muslims, bombing churches and mosques, as well as markets, and attacking every civilian location they can find, with no discrimination between adherents of either religion. However, two US Republican evangelical groups, TruthNigeria.com and another called EquippingThePersecuted.org, say they've gone in after the attacks, counted the bodies and have eyewitness accounts. They say they've been documenting the killings for the past 2 years, and that in terms of the numbers, the ratio is more than 6 to 1. For every Muslim that's been killed in these conflicts, there are 6 Christians that have been murdered, they say. Well, let's get the thoughts of the former Senate Chief Whip, Senator Ali Dume, who currently represents Borno South in the Senate. And Borno State, of course, the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency. And Senator Dume joins me now in the studio. Senator, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Charles,
for coming here.
How are you?
Very well indeed. And you?
Alhamdulillah, I came back because of you.
Well, thank you. We're very honored to have you here. This has come from an extremely strongly worded post on President Trump's social media platform, Truth Social. Subsequently, he spoke on Air Force One, saying that the Nigerian government is engaged in severe violations of religious freedom and that Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, everybody has come out to deny that. That is not to say that Christians are not being killed. And also, what we have been saying is that it is not only the Christians that are being killed, but Muslims are also being killed. This has been confirmed by both religion. And in fact, other people too. There are people that have been killed. There's a lot of killings going on in Nigeria for the past 16 years or more. That is from the Boko Haram insurgents in 2009. There's nobody can deny that. But to say exclusively that it is the Christian that are being targeted depends on where the event happens. If an event happens in Plateau or Christian-dominated area, naturally it is the Christians that will be the victims, as it is now in Benue and Plateau. If you go to other areas that are Muslim-dominated, and it depends on what type of criminality that is going on there, the victims are naturally going to be the Muslims. And if a church is attacked, of course, the victims will be the Christians in that church. And if a mosque is attacked, it will be, the Muslims basically that will be the victims. And if, of course, an attack such that happened in bus station in Nyanya, where over 400 people were killed, then you find all sorts of...
It's indiscriminate.
It's indiscriminate. This is what is going on in Nigeria right now. The Boko Haram, that is the terrorists, the ISWAB, and ISIS is going on there. There are the bandits in the northwest that are killing Muslims even in mosques because there are few churches there. And of course in Plateau, churches are being attacked, but that is also between the herdsmen who happen to be Fulanis and the farmers, predominantly Christians. So it is a matter that affects all Nigerians, so to say. So for Trump to have come out to declare that is, I can say, out of ignorance. And you see, I have been to America myself. An average American is innocently ignorant. You find an American who lives in Ohio, grows up in Ohio, and he's never been to Chicago.
I went to university in Ohio, by the way.
And then, but you didn't go to Chicago?
So be careful what you say.
I didn't know.
But I did go, well, actually, I used to go to Chicago. Chicago is just about 5 hours from where I was in Ohio.
So
5 hours drive.
I schooled in Toledo.
I know Toledo very well.
Then
Toledo is in the far north of Ohio.
I arrived because there is no airport in Toledo. I arrived at Dayton, what they call it.
Yeah, I know Dayton.
Okay, so you
Dayton was 30 minutes from where I was in Cincinnati.
Oh, you are in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I was in Cincinnati, then
Cincinnati
Columbus.
to Toledo is also, I think, 30 minutes or less. So you can see an average American from Cincinnati would, grow up, die in Cincinnati without ever being to Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah, it's a very inward-looking society.
So this is, Donald Trump himself does not really know, he's ignorant about what is happening in Nigeria. And that is where the problem is. I raised this alarm on the 7th.
Yes, you had a motion.
I brought
you moved a motion, yeah.
The motion is titled, The Urgent Need to Correct the Misconception Going On, where American senator wants Nigeria to be reclassified again as CPC because we have been on that list when Obama, these guys were.
Well, even Trump. I mean, in Trump's first administration, we were in that list.
But then we were lifted, and that was when we were struggling to get, when the attack of the insurgents, the terrorists, was at its peak, and we desperately needed air support, and like Tucano. Leeway law prevented us from getting that. And Buhari has to go to Washington, meet with Donald Trump, then convince him, because I remember he told me then that Donald Trump looked at him in the face and said, you are there and they are killing Christians. What the hell is going on? And Buhari, being a calm person, allowed Trump to vent out. And he said, look, this is not what's going on. And, he went him through and would prove. I remember that Nigerian top government officials had to go even before ICC to defend Nigeria as to those allegations then. I remember Simon Lalong was the governor of Plateau. He had to go there because there were killings in Plateau too. But surprisingly, when I brought this motion, this government, was really more of indifferent about it, and they were treating it with levity. And look at what is going on now. All have been diverted to making noise, and you don't. Well,
it's a reactionary thing, isn't it? They're now become, rather than being proactive, to have dealt with it.
Yeah,
because on the strength of the motion that people like you put out.
And you remember that this whole problem came out from the American Congress. That is the same as National Assembly in here, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But did you hear National Assembly here doing anything?
Reacting to it.
Reacting to it.
Officially
or proactively. Yeah. When I brought the motion, even the prayers of the motion were stood down, and they said they had set a committee to look at the motion. And look at what has happened now.
That's a very good point. And the U.S. lawmaker Riley Moore is warning the Nigerian government not to test the resolve of the U.S. government under President Trump. He warned that others who had tested the resolve of the Trump administration had failed, and that President Trump had provided forewarning: if you do not correct the current state of inaction, the days of the U.S. looking the other way are over. Those are the words of Riley Moore. He says, we will not allow the gates of hell to prevail against the faithful. That sounds scary, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's the American stuff. One thing good about them is, as they issue these strong warnings, is honestly because they have only had the one side. They didn't hear the other side. And actually, what happened to Christians in Benue State, especially recently, with this town, where I think about 200 people were massacred, and they were buried in a
mass grave.
Anybody that sees that is gruesome, and you cannot, But if you look at, let me give you an example. I'm not trying to say, look, those are that, but all life matters.
Yeah.
In my own village,
That's in Borno State.
in Borno State, our emir was killed by Boko Haram on the street when he was going to Gombe for the condolence of the emir of Gombe that died. In my own local government, elders that were reading Quranic elders that were reading Quran, 75 of them were taken to slaughterhouse in my village by Boko Haram, and they were slaughtered one after the other. Only one of them escaped because the blood of others covered him, and then he fainted, so they thought he is dead. In my own town, they went to Tijaniya's, just near my father's house. There is one Sheikh Babara, we call him, has 20 of his students slaughtered by Boko Haram. They were lined up like that.
And they're all Muslims.
And they are all Muslims, not only Muslims, but the man is Sheikh, but he is of a different faith. You know, the Boko Haram call themselves Izalatul Bidya wa Ikamati, whatever. But those ones are Tijaniyas. They lined them up. And those that I told you, elderly people, none of them was less than 60. And you can imagine if you have to bury them. In fact, we could not bury them. All we did was to gather their bones, because that time Goza was not accessible at all. So if you look at it on the other side, you see the killings going on. Look at the killings going on in Southeast. By who? It's not by the jihadis, by IPOP. And they're killing who? Christians and Igbos, their own. So this kind of madness that is happening, the government is supposed to take drastic steps.
Yeah. Although they argue that in the southeast there's also been infiltration from Fulani groups there who are also carrying out their own killings. But yeah, you have a point there. But I mean, are you surprised or perhaps shocked that this is coming from a President Trump, who prides himself on stopping wars? I mean, that's what he said he was coming to do, because his tone here is very aggressive, isn't it? I mean, he's threatening to send US forces into Nigeria with, as he put it, guns a-blazing, if Nigeria doesn't stem what he describes as this killing of Christians by Islamists.
Swift and whatever.
Swift, vicious, and sweet. You know,
Donald Trump is used to that kind of a thing, and that's why the leadership of Nigerian government also will be tested. That is how you respond to it. I told you what happened between him and late President Buhari. And he later came out to say that he respects President Buhari because...
Although he said Buhari put him off to sleep, though. I mean, he was so desperately boring that he thought he was talking to, you know.
That is Trump for you. He can insult anybody and later on praise anybody.
Yeah.
So, but this is a serious case, you know, considering the fact that Nigerians, there is a gap in there between the government of not only Nigeria, because recently, before I came here, I understand Canada has joined them.
Yeah, Canada has.
UK
in condemning what is going on in Nigeria.
No, not in condemning, but believing.
Yeah. In fact, the Canadian person who spoke was very explicit.
Yeah.
About Christian genocide.
Yeah. The minority leader there in the Canadian. The UK House of Lords are also bought into this. We don't know what is happening in Germany and others. But you see, if you allow small problem like this to grow up, it can do unrepairable damage.
Absolutely.
So why don't you avoid that by taking those actions? Like, look, Charles,
it's partly the arrogance of power. We don't listen to anybody else but
this thing
ourselves.
started in the U.S. Congress, and we have National Assembly here. I told them during the motion, it takes 10 hours to get to US from here. And it takes Mr. President a phone call to ask for audience with Donald Trump. And we have reputable international diplomats in the country, starting from Sulu Gambari, Akinyemi,
Emeka
Anyoku, Amina is there. We had a president of United Nations, somebody from KB, I can't remember his name. I know so many international diplomats that have contacts that can reach out to anybody, former presidents, congressmen, and we have the Senate here. We have the Senate president. They have we have the speaker, and there are people are sitting down there.
But in fairness to the Tinubu government, I spoke to some of them just literally a few hours ago at very high levels, and they say they've opened direct communication with the White House with regard to this, that they are now, Aso Rock in Abuja is now in direct communication at the very highest levels with the White House.
Why does that have to take you 2 years,
yeah,
Charles?
but that's what they've said they've done. I mean, so they say they're trying to manage the crisis.
What is manage the crisis? These are people, the government of Tinubu came in, 2.5 years ago or so. Do you know that we don't have ambassadors anywhere?
Yeah, that bit is a bit worrying.
Do you know that we don't have a representative in the UN? I mean, let's say it as it is. And the government should really, I don't like saying this on the TV too, but do you know why? That's the only way I can vent out.
It's important that you say these things.
Yeah, because I don't have chance to see the president. You understand? The only time maybe you want to see the president is to run where he's going to, have any event. And maybe if the president sees you, you say, oh, Dume, this is how they run the government. And I'm telling you, they don't have people in there. They don't have people. You know why I said they don't have any people? If you, Charles, go in anywhere now, out of 10 people, 5 or 6 or 7 will say, this is Charles from Arise TV. But you have people, I said before, they said Dume is being abusive. It's true that we have, the government is dominated by kakistocrats. I want to repeat that again. And then kleptocrats. All they are concerned about, if you want to see the president, they would ask you how much.
That is, if that is true, then that is.
Do you think I'll come here and lie?
No, I'm just saying that's a shame. That is a disgusting,
and people
appalling
want to,
shame.
Now, if I say, I wrote to them, I asked them, I want to see the president to discuss some national issues. Then they will be playing games and as if you are going to heaven. No.
But I mean, in your considered assessment, how likely is it that Donald Trump is going to do what he's saying? I mean,
no, he's going to change his mind when
because I mean,
if he's
is it all rhetoric rather than?
No, it's not rhetoric. Don't take America for granted. Don't. Look, Charles, the whole world were against Israel. It's only America that was behind Israel, and they won. They brought down Gaza, did sorts of, inhuman treatments. But yet, because America is behind it, they had to wait for Trump to finish addressing the Israelites and went to Egypt to sign the ceasefire agreement. America is not a joke. Anybody that is telling you here, talking from Prime TV, is this your prime time, coming to prime time to split nonsense. It's not even hard in America, you know that. Because if you have to watch this program in America, you have to pay for it. It's on the cable, isn't it? It's not like in
it's
the
a
public,
subscription.
It's
thing.
A subscription viewing. It's not like our own that you switch your TV. But even our own, I don't know whether you are on this. You have
no, but to be fair, we do have an audience, not as big as in Nigeria, obviously, but a growing audience in America. But to support what you're saying, Senator, there are Nigerians serving in the U.S. military who have said that the Nigerian government should take very seriously indeed President Trump's warning.
Yeah.
That President Tinubu should either rein in Islamist militant groups like Boko Haram, ISWAP, etc., or risk U.S. military action. They say, these are their words, we are in the U.S. Army and we can feel the heated pulse there. There is no cautious, deliberative approach under the U.S. administration, and this is a government that prefers to shoot first and ask questions later when it comes to perceived global threats. And the former the former U.S. Army Captain Bish Johnson, also emphasized that point because he was in the U.S. Army, so he kind of understands their mentality. He says they are aggressive and unrestrained. Just look at what they're doing in Iran, Venezuela, Colombia, with a show of force. How do you think Senator, the Nigerian government should now engage with the Americans?
No, Nigerian government have all opportunities. Number one is in the American democratic setup, you know, they are what they call the lobbyists. These are people that have contact with high levels. These are people that can talk to Donald Trump and he will listen. Donald Trump is surrounded by some influential people that they think are like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and all those guys are people that can. And even our president with the right buttons and with these characters, I mean, leadership that I told you they were blessed with. The former Commonwealth Secretary General, he's respected all over the world.
He is.
Kingibe is a known, you know, he has, this guy, even in the military sector, General Gusau is an intelligence man that has a lot of contacts worldwide. Babangida himself, and we have so many people in Nigeria that can come in, but these are guys that cannot and will not ask for appointment with Mr. President to see Mr. President. Mr. President, for example, should have called...
Should go and seek them out.
Yes, not only seek them out, but no, he can call them in. Like he can call an emergency, what do you call it? State council meeting, you know, where all our elders will come, and then you can pick volunteers, and he has a big aircraft. He can send them out to go and explain these positions, convince. One good thing about an American, including Donald Trump, they have only had one side now, and they have seen it. But if you give them the other side of the information truthfully, facts, figures, and truth, they will accept it, because truth is like that. No matter how you...
And presumably they are reasonable people.
They are. Actually, they are. In fact, I was saying that instead of crying out of labeling us as CPC, that is countries of particular concern, we should ask America to brand us as CSP, country of special concern, so that they give us what is needed in order to finish with this criminality and all that is...
But I mean, of course, the focus is now on Nigeria. So beyond just the issue of, you know, whether Christians are being killed or not, the spotlight, I mean, you mentioned all the other countries, the UK, Canada, and so on, big countries that are now looking at this country. Is this an opportunity for Nigeria to acknowledge historical wrongs in this country, not just against Christians, but against ethnic groups and minorities, against things like corruption, which has wasted the lives and opportunities of so many, the stealing of elections, the imposition of leaders on the people that they did not choose, etc.? Is this an opportunity for sort of mea culpa in this country?
That is what I see. If you accept that you have a problem, and in fact magnify the problem, because to Americans it's narrow. The problem is narrow, that it is only the Christians that are being targeted. And it is high time we open up to say, no, majority of Nigerians, especially the poorest and the middle income, the genocide, as you call it, is against the poor, it's against the middle income.
There's oppression in this country.
There's oppression against, you know, with the Christians and the poor Muslims, all of those.
But you see, the other thing that has drawn attention in places like America, beyond the killings, is that they say that in the northern states, you come from a northern state, that are dominated by Sharia law, the Christians there are living as second-class citizens. They are allegedly being forced to pay a fee, according to them, just to live on their land. And if they don't pay up, they get victimized. And they say that no Christians are allowed to hold any serious government office in the Muslim-dominated states. And perhaps more alarmingly, they say that radical Islamists are continuing to work their way south with this agenda and are now slowly moving into the Middle Belt region and are subjugating the Christian communities there. And the federal government is doing nothing about it in what ought to be a secular country. What's your reaction to that?
Well, let me say, Charles, I'm in a very good position to agree or disagree with this. I think I told you that my family are half Christians and half Muslim.
Yes, you did.
In the sense that my mother, and you know, to me, before the death of my two parents, father and mother, to me, and based on my religion, number one to me in this whole world is my mom. followed my father. That's what my religion says. Our prophet was asked, who is most important to you? He said, your mother. And the person said, after the mother, he said, your mother. And then the third time the prophet was asked, he said, the most important person to you is your mother. He said, prophet, I have been asking you, say, mother, mother, mother. He said, yes, 3 times. It is after that he said, then your father. You understand? My mother, up to now, is number 1 to me. After me, I have relatives that are Christian. Diana, David, all are we are of the same mother but different father. My father, my stepfather brought me up. And when I was growing up as a Muslim, he's the one that takes me to the mosque every Friday. And he goes to church on Sundays. That's
but you're not exactly typical of the average person in
telling
that
you
area.
What is happening in my constituency. Right. It is in my constituency in Borno South, that's where I come from, that you have Christians. But other zones of Borno Central and Borno North are predominantly Muslims. Right. And let me tell you, Charles, these 2 zones that I mentioned to you in Borno State are most affected by Boko Haram. They are most devastated by Boko Haram.
In other words, the Muslim-dominated
Muslim-dominated. Right. And in my local government, the 2 local governments that are severely affected are my local government, and then there's another local government called Damboa. It's predominantly Muslim too, but it is predominantly affected by Boko Haram. And in my own case, as I said, we have some good number of Christians in my local government. Recently, 2 areas were affected. Kirawa, as you must have learned recently, about 5,000 Muslims were displaced. They are all Muslims. And in another local government, Uba, overnight, youths were attacked in their farms. 5 people were killed, and all of them are Christians.
Right. Well, we're almost out of time.
So the issue, I want to say this again. Many people have said it. I think we are running on emotions instead of reality. The problem before us is real. And the problem before us, if America comes in with this wrong conception, is going to affect all. You understand? And that will give advantage, more advantage to the terrorists, the bandits, because their source is illegitimate source. The Nigerian government source, and in Nigeria we don't even manufacture bullets as it is now. All of it will have to come from other countries with maybe AIDS and that. If all this is cut off, that means the terrorists and others will have an upper hand. And I'm wondering, is if even the Americans, if they want to attack like my local government, are they going to ask the Christians to stand aside? Or how are they going to do it anyway? In my family now, are you going to tell me that my brothers and sisters...
Yeah, but I don't think that the plan is to attack your village. The plan is to use intelligence gathering,
and why are you going to get
satellites and so on to know exactly where these people are and hit them hard to the point where they decimate them. But we have to watch and see what happens next. Senator, it's brilliant to have you here. Always good to see you, and always good to get your forthright assessments of situations in this country, a situation now which has gone international. Senator Ali Dume is the former Senate Chief Whip. He currently represents Borno South in the Senate, and of course his state, Borno State, is the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Charles.